Hey kids, welcome to the garage. Cyberpunk. It's all the rage these days, isn't it? Between all the phantom liberties and the turbo overkilling and the ghost running and well, cyberpunk in PC gaming hasn't seen this kind of bounty since it hit the scene back in the 1980s. And today's game is Beyond Sunset, a brand new GZ Doom powered cyberpunk movement shooter infused with a hefty dose of Blade Runner and retro wave aesthetics. We play as Lucy, a street samurai under the hire of a mysterious entity named Yuri, and Lucy's job in the opening of the game is to assassinate a member of the Syndicate who is putting out bad vibes and making Yuri's life a living hell. Lucy has a wild assortment of moves that she can execute. She carries a katana and may or may not be a clone of the original Lucy with no memory of whether or not she's the original. So that's a whole lot of baggage to carry into this right off the jump. Well, in the beginning, Lucy's handler drops her off at Sunset City, so we're tasked with finding a way to gain access to our target. As we make our way through the city, we can pick up side jobs, earn cash, purchase upgrades, find new weapons, and even make friends with a puppy. This is all in service of finagling our way to our final goal. Now, before I jump into specifics on how I feel about the game, I really do need to mention that Movie Games, who developed this game, contacted me through Twitter with a free code for the game in return for a review on my channel. And as usual, they did not try to bribe me for a positive review. Someday someone is going to, and I will say, yes, sir, thank you, sir, because I need money. Anyways, first off, I gotta say, Beyond Sunset is incredibly ambitious. So walking into this game after playing the Next Fest demo that came out a while ago, I was under the impression that we were going to be getting a more straightforward linear experience moving from map to map following a set storyline. Instead, we are immediately let loose into what is one of the largest interconnected city maps I have seen in a GZ Doom game to date, and we're given carte blanche to kind of wander around and just find our way to our objective, so Deus Ex style. The city itself is broken up into a number of smaller maps, all of which have multiple entry points and exit points, so you're never forced into moving from map to map via a specific path. It's wildly impressive just how much is going on here at any given point. The interconnectivity as you bounce back and forth between the maps, switching switches that activate gates and open doors across other maps, it's all so well integrated that I genuinely feel it's giving Hexen a run for its money. Hell, the sheer scope of Sunset City, including the market streets, the slums, and the quarantine zone, is coming close to head-on style maps just simply by scale. I admit that I was a little intimidated at first once I realized that I was playing what is essentially a micro open world. Realizing that you have no specific direction other than a general go assassinate this person directive is kind of wild for a GZ Doom game. Micro open world is honestly the best term for this style of the game, because even though Lucy's movement set sees her running around and jumping with all the aplomb of the best movement shooters out there, as you unlock pathways between the maps, you'll be navigating everything in the same manner as you would, say, an Assassin's Creed or a Fallout game. Keeping track of which handlers gave you which jobs and which paths lead to which maps. I was a little worried that pathfinding would become a little confusing at first, mostly because, for me, I just kind of accepted the first job that I could, and I just sort of took off in a direction, not really knowing where I was going or what I was doing or how I was going to get to where I wanted to go. But the game very organically leads from objective to objective, effortlessly taking the player by the hand without it ever feeling like it's actually doing so. Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty on that, I do want to address one particular elephant in the room. You may or may not have noticed in my footage already that there are sometimes pretty significant frame rate drops during gameplay depending on the amount of city being rendered at any given point in time. There were times when, after playing the game for somewhere around 45 minutes or so, the frame rate would stutter to such an unhealthy degree that I literally had to bounce out of the game and restart it. I even lost a good chunk of footage because the game was acting up way too much, slowing down and becoming really jerky, and somehow there was a disconnect between it and Bandicam. So I played through the content a second time just to make sure I had enough footage for this video. And that being said, Beyond Sunset's ambitious size might be a bit too ambitious off the jump. However, as you can see up here, I was playing a pre-release build of the game that was a work in progress. So I have a feeling that certain things are going to be cleaned up or optimized closer to day one early access launch. And on top of that, I do really want to note, this could just be a simple case of the game having to render a whole lot of assets at any point in time during gameplay. Remembering not only the current stats of the player character and how the player is interacting with the world, but remembering how other maps have been altered or interacted with previously, loading and unloading specific code for the game to remember all of this. Look, I'm not the tech dad. You kids all know this about me. But what I'm trying to say here is that I really don't fault the game for this right now. Number one, like I said, this is a pre-release build, so what we're seeing may or may not be what you experience with the build that launches into early access. I'm really only bringing it up because it happens so often that I think I would be remiss if I didn't at least point out what my experience was. But if anything, I genuinely believe a lot of this is due to the engine trying to keep up with this deeply impressive world that movie games has built. Jesus, impressive doesn't feel like a strong enough word for how fucking bold and beautiful this city is. This is, for me, the closest to experiencing Blade Runner in a PC game that I have ever had, outside of playing an actual Blade Runner game, which I haven't. But I would also say that it's a little closer to a William Gibson novel like Neuromancer, with the set dressings of Blade Runner in terms of how the game genuinely feels. We've got NPCs wandering around the city that are dressed up in ways that resemble Deckard and Rachel from Blade Runner the movie. There's a giant neon holographic ads running through the city streets wielding a katana with a constant downpour of rain while listening to a fantastic synth soundtrack that is working overtime to evoke Vangelis's iconic score from Blade Runner. It feels like a cybernetic fever dream that I've always wanted to experience. I get that Cyberpunk 2077 or Turbo Overkill are probably the go-to experiences for first-person immersive cyberpunk at the moment, but while those have the look and feel of a certain type of cyberpunk, Beyond Sunset understands the William Gibson of it all. This is Neuromancer. This is Mona Lisa Overdrive. Just the term street samurai alone gives me teenage 90s cyberpunk vibes that draw from a kind of future nostalgia that few experiences can craft. Lucy is a character that feels great to play as, and I really quickly just want to say how fucking welcome it is to see more female protagonists in FPS games these days. But Lucy's deft control set is as fluid and easy to wield as any movement shooter out there right now. Basic movement includes a robust double jump, air dash, and slide mechanics. There's a great sequence where you're platforming across conveniently placed hover pads around a construction site in the slums. And while I did fall off a couple of times, and I needed to take some bounce pads to get back up to where I was, I never once felt like the jump and dash movesets were letting me down. Lucy is superbly acrobatic to a point that would make the Doomslayer blush. Just the bit where I was leaping from rooftop to rooftop, trading gunfire with katana-wielding Japanese cyber henchmen was fucking gold. Fucking gold. I don't care what the frame rate was fucking doing. I was having a fucking blast. Combat is pretty effervescent, let me tell you. Lucy starts out with just a katana, which has great melee range and can even perform a glory kill-like maneuver called a power kill, which kills enemies in one hit and drops loads of health and ammunition. It's got a pretty wide range too, so sometimes you can chop up 2 or 3 guys at a time. You can store up to 3 power kill moves, and you charge them by just straight up murking dudes. It's simple and effective. We're also going to get access to a sick shotgun and a really nice machine gun, both of which have somewhat limited ammo capacity when you pick them up, but they can be upgraded at cash stations for a significant amount of coin. Lucy can also upgrade her health at these same stations, so you're going to have to think carefully about what is going to be most important to you as you progress. So remember the side jobs that I mentioned. Completing those is the quickest way to get buttloads of cash and stack up those upgrades. There's also secret areas all throughout the maps, which reward Lucy with a hefty coinage for her pocketbook. Combat is going to take one of 2 courses. First off, you meet enemies that just wander around the environment. And the second way is in closed-off arenas that won't let you out until you've killed all the waves of baddies that teleport in. These are Doom-style arenas. They happen few and far between, usually as a bit of a test after you've reached something that unlocks a path moving forward. There is a little mini-boss fight, though, that was a blast, involving an old Soviet mech, which actually kind of got a little sweaty. Most of the environmental enemies are usually perched on walls or ledges, throwing fireballs down at you or tossing some good old-fashioned bullets your way. Shit, I forgot to mention that Lucy can deflect bullets with her sword. She can do that. It's a neat mechanic. I'm really not good at timing bullet deflection, though, so don't take my experience as an indication of anything. But it is a neat function, and when I got my timing right, it definitely made me giggle. I felt a little badass. Something that Beyond Sunset does really well, aside from just the combat, are the immersive sim elements that it brings to the table. This is all very light sim stuff, mind you. It doesn't go full Deus Ex, but Beyond Sunset allows the player to choose their own pathway through the city by setting it up so that you can chase after whichever side jobs you want and talk to certain NPCs as you wish. For example, there's an encounter that you can potentially miss if you don't stop by the noodle shop early on, where you can meet a character named Apollo, who has some mysterious insight into our assassination target, and later we find out that he's actually our target's personal bodyguard. Later in the game, when we return to the noodle shop, he'll be gone. Long story short, we go back and he'll be gone. And if we speak to the robot server at the bar, the server lets us know that we had just missed the aforementioned bodyguard. Scattered across the city are the Kyodai, or the lead henchmen of our target, and in order to bypass certain locks, we need to cut off their arms and then use the dismembered hand on a scanner, which is such a nice touch. You'll even know which arm unlocks which pad based on the color of their suit. But the point of this is one Kyodai is holed up in The Wave, which is a local nightclub, and inquiring with the bartender leads us to understand that the Kyodai will start some shit if we go in guns blazing. And if we're going to start a ruckus, it would be nice if we got innocent civilians out of the way first. I did play through this part twice. The first time, I just went in swinging my sword, which maybe caused a lot of collateral damage. But the second time, I went around back of the wave and I set off the fire alarm, which caused everyone inside to panic and run for the exit. I did still catch some civilians in the crossfire, but I definitely spared more than I did the first time around. It's little touches like these that make the game feel alive and breathing, like we're having an effect on what's happening around us. It'll be interesting to see if movie games implements any of these in such a way that they have a kind of effect on the game down the line, where we make a choice and it impacts something later that we discover. The last little bit that I want to go over are the cyberspace sections, which are fucking fantastic. They feel like the best possible combination between the cyberspace designs of System Shock and Tech War. Here, Lucy goes full hacker mode and lands in an 8-bit VR simulation of Sunset City's network, where she needs to find her way around and break some access nodes in order to open up different areas around the city. It is simple, stylistic, very effective. At first, I was thrown off by the fact that initially you can die in only one hit from these defensive programs, which kind of sucks, but that's only until you find more Zelda-style hearts lying around cyberspace. You collect some more of those, and then they act as your health here, meaning you can take more hits. Lucy still has the same double jump and dash and slide movements here, just like the real world, and you're going to need these to get around and find those access nodes. All in all, Beyond Sunset is absolutely winning for me. Just fucking winning. I felt so fucking refreshed playing through this cyberpunk city with a gentle, low-tempo synth-wave track that played overhead as I made my way around. Again, completely invoking that incredible score by Vangelis, even during non-critical moments of combat. Combat music only really kicked in during arena fights to signify the amplitude of the situation. Like, I want more of this fucking game right now. And I would probably have a little bit more to play if I could beat the fucking boss fight. Oh, so, before we get to the person we're trying to assassinate, we meet up with Apollo, who drops in. He tells us that he can't let us go on, yada, 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 conversation. Okay. And the fight, after that, starts out pretty straightforward, with Apollo firing homing missiles at us as we slide and dash around the arena with a couple fodder henchmen in case we need to use a power kill for health and ammo. But then Apollo straight up phase changes into what can only be described as a nuclear ion cannon attack that will either one hit kill you if you aren't dashing away fast enough, or the resulting shockwave will take your health down to a fucking quarter of your max health. I'm not fucking kidding. I got enough money to upgrade my health to a max of 200 HP, and the fucking shockwave plus AoE bullshit took me down to 60-something in like one hit. If Apollo kills you, you start back before the conversation. So you have to wade through the conversation again, go through the first phase again, and then make another attempt at the second phase. But if you somehow survive 3 of those ion cannon attacks, Apollo shoots out walls of damaging energy that spin in a circle. So you have to strafe and spin with it. But they're so damaging that if you're not ready for that attack, you'll die pretty much instantly. The attacks in the second phase are just outright and absolutely unfair. Unfucking fair. And I will not listen to cries of skill issue, because my metric for measuring all of this are the bosses in Viscera Fest. So just give me the pulpit for a second here, alright? I don't think that the second phase of Apollo's fight is a problem on paper. I think the ion cannon attack works, and the spinning walls of energy work. However, in their current state, they not only do too much damage to the player, but they're not telegraphed with enough time for the player to react to them. Even when I knew the ion cannon was coming, I had a hard time getting the timing down right to dodge it, so I was either dying or constantly taking a shit ton of damage from it, enough so that I would be back at the conversation phase of Apollo all over again, just seething. I think one of two things needs to happen here. And movie games, I'm not trying to tell you how to make your game, but I do genuinely feel like this fight is absolutely unfair. Okay, so number 1, turn down the damage on the ion cannon and the energy walls. Okay, if you make it so that the player can take 1 full direct hit from the ion cannon, then they'll have the time to get the rhythm down and understand what is going on. Swoop in to power kill a fodder enemy and then take some shots at Apollo. You can also leave the short countdown timer on the cannon attack alone. Turning down the damage on the energy walls makes it so that the player will still get caught off guard by the attack, but not feel punished for doing so, and actually still have a fighting chance. Okay? Option number 2. Leave the damage modifiers alone, but increase the amount of time the player has before the attack lands. Say it takes Apollo 2 or 3 seconds to charge up the ion cannon, giving the player extra time to get the hell out of the way of the blast and still jump over the shockwave after, and maybe 2 or 3 seconds for Apollo to charge up the energy walls as well. then say he has a cooldown phase between those attacks where he has to recharge his own energy, leaving him open to attacks from Lucy. I think either of those situations would work really well here, but something needs to change. And I want to point out that I'm playing this on average difficulty. Not easy, not hard, just average. I will say that I'm gonna definitely pop back in on my own time and take another crack at Apollo, because I have to. I need to. I need to see where this game is going. Beyond Sunset is fucking excellent. Excellent. From aesthetics to gameplay to immersion, this game is an absolute winner. And I have no doubt the frame rate issues that I had will get attention ASAP. But, frankly, my one singular criticism is that boss fight needs to get overhauled. Seriously, I think either of the changes that I listed will work, and even will work well within the original intent of the fight's design. Anyways, thank you, all of you. Thank you, kids, for checking out this video. I really do highly fucking recommend that you go check out Beyond Sunset. It is out in early access either right now or in a couple of hours from when I posted this video. So just go buy it and then come back here and leave a comment about my skill issues with Apollo. In the meantime, please consider checking out my Patreon. That makes it easier for me to continue making videos like these. Follow me on Twitter, join my Discord. Let's go have some fun. All right, kids, sit up straight, roll your shoulders back, and stay hydrated. Stay safe out there. I'll see you next time.